A political storm of unprecedented magnitude is gathering over the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, where swirling rumors of a potential military coup against President Volodymyr Zelensky are no longer confined to the shadows. These whispers have intensified into open speculation within military and political circles, driven by the catastrophic military situation unfolding around the strategic eastern city of Pokrovsk. The near collapse of Ukrainian defense in that sector has created a crisis of confidence so profound that it threatened the very foundation of Zelensky's wartime government. The current mood in Kyiv is a volatile cocktail of fear, anger, and exhaustion, a stark contrast to the defiant unity that characterized the early stage of the war. As Russian forces tighten their deadly embrace on Pokrovsk, the political leadership in Kyiv is facing a battle on a second front. This one internal against a rising tide of dissent that questions the nation's entire war strategy and the competence of its commander, including the president himself. The possibility of a dramatic and forceful change in leadership, occurring even as the nation fights for its existence, has transformed from a distant nightmare into a subject of urgent and serious discussion. The source of this political firestorm is the city of Pokrovsk, a vital industrial and logistical hub in the Donetsk region. What began as a determined defense has devolved into a desperate, chaotic retreat for many Ukrainian units. Reports from journalists in bed with military forces before communications were largely severed painted a horrifying pictures of Ukrainian soldiers being systematically obliterated by a technologically and numerically superior Russian force. The Russian strategy appears to be one of complete annihilation, employing a relentless and overwhelming combination of artillery fire, aerial bombardment with powerful glide bombs, and swarms of explosive drones. Entire city blocks have been leveled, turning streets into impassable fields of rubble and concrete. The Ukrainian defenders, suffering from severe shortage of ammunition and exhausted from weeks of ceaseless combat, are being encircled. The main supply routes into the city are now under constant Russian fire, making reinforcement and medical evacuation almost impossible. The impending fall of Pokrovsk would be more than just a tactical defeat. It would represent a strategic disaster, shattering Ukraine's defensive line in the Donbass and opening a direct path for Russian advance toward other key administrative centers. The psychological blow to the nation would be immense, validating a growing narrative that President Zelensky's promise of victory are detached from the grim reality on the battlefield. This military desperation has directly fueled the political turmoil in Kyiv. The whispers of a coup are now coalescing around specific grievances and alleged factions. A significant portion of the discontent is believed to originate from seasoned field commanders and veterans of the war's most brutal battle. These military leaders are reportedly frustrated with what they see as a series of disastrous strategic decisions made by the high command in Kyiv, which they believe is too influenced by political considerations and not enough by military realities on the ground. They complain of poorly planned counteroffensive that led to massive casualties, of a critical lack of adequate fortification despite months of warning about a Russian offensive, and of a persistent failure to mobilize the nation's industry until full war footing. These sentiments are reportedly being shared and amplified through encrypted messaging channels among a network of brigade-level officers. While no single leader has emerged to publicly challenge Zelensky, the name of a highly respected but recently sidelined general is frequently mentioned in these secret conversations as a potential figurehead for national unity or military government. The Ukrainian Security Service, the SBU, is said to be working furiously to identify and disrupt these networks, leading to an atmosphere of paranoia where even loyal officers are viewed with suspicion. Adding to the tension are the visible changes on the street of the capital. Armed patrols by military police and National Guard units have become more frequent and more heavily armed. Checkpoints have been established at key intersections, leading to traffic jams and a pervasive sense of unease among the civilian population. While government officials have publicly stated these are routine measures to guard against Russia's sabotage, many residents interpret them as a sign of the government's fear of its own military. There are unconfirmed reports of several junior officers being quietly arrested on suspicion of insubordination, the disappearance adding to the chilling effect within the armed force. The Verkhovna Rada, Ukraine's parliament, has become a hotbed of political intrigue. Opposition parties, which had largely observed a political truce since the invasion, are becoming more assertive. Several prominent opposition figures have given speech that, while not calling for a coup directly, have used coded language to demand accountability and a change in the country's wartime leadership. They speak of the need for a more realistic approach and a government capable of making hard choice, which is widely understood as criticism of Zelensky's steadfast refusal to consider any territorial concessions. These political maneuvers are creating deep divisions at a time when national unity is most needed, further weakening the government's position. This internal crisis is being watched with extreme concern in Washington, where the new administration of President Donald Trump is grappling with how to respond. The situation presents a significant dilemma. President Trump has been vocal about his desire to end the war and to stop what he calls the endless flow of American money to Ukraine. However, the prospect of a military coup replacing a democratically elected leader is something that the United States cannot publicly endorse. A high-level meeting was reportedly convened in the White House to discuss the intelligence. In attendance were President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. According to the source familiar with the meeting, the intelligence picture presented by Director Gabbard was alarming. He outlined a scenario where the fall of Pokrovsk could trigger a chain reaction, leading to a spontaneous mutiny by frontline units that could quickly spiral into a full-blown coup. He noted that while there is no definite evidence of a single coordinated plot, the conditions are ripe for an internal collapse. Secretary Hegseth, presenting the Pentagon's analysis, reportedly concurred, emphasizing the dire state of the Ukrainian military. He informed the president that no amount of short-term military aid could reverse the situation at Pokrovsk and that the Ukrainian army was facing a severe manpower crisis. His assessment was that the Ukrainian military is approaching a breaking point and that sending older and poorly trained conscripts to the front was a sign of utter desperation that was destroying morale. Secretary Rubio discussed the diplomatic ramifications, arguing that a coup would create chaos and could lead to the complete disintegration of the Ukrainian state, a scenario that would be far worse than a negotiated settlement. He advised the president to use all available channels to pressure both Kyiv and Moscow to agree to an immediate ceasefire, arguing that it was the only way to prevent a total collapse. The economic dimensions of the crisis was also a key part of the discussion. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent briefed the president on the fragile state of the Ukrainian economy, which is now almost entirely dependent on foreign financial support. He warned that the political instability was spooking international creditors and that a coup would likely trigger a complete financial meltdown, making any future reconstruction impossible. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick added that the instability was also a major concern for American companies with investment in the region and that a wider conflict could have serious consequences for global trade. The domestic implications within the United States were also considered. Attorney General Pam Bondi was reportedly asked to prepare a legal analysis of the option available to the U.S. government in the event of a coup, including the complex issue of recognizing a new government that came to power through unconstitutional means. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem expressed her concern that a collapse of the Ukrainian state could trigger a new and even larger wave of refugees, putting immense pressure on European allies and creating a new humanitarian crisis. The social and psychological fabric of Ukraine is also fraying under the immense strain. The decision to expand the draft to include men up to the age of 60 has been met with quite despair and simmering anger. It has brought the war home to families that had previously been spared the direct loss of their loved ones. This has created a new reservoir of public discontent that the political position is beginning to tap into. There is a growing feeling that the government is sacrificing its people in a war that is no longer winnable, and that a different leadership might be able to negotiate a peace that, while painful, would at least end the bloodshed. The new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has been in contact with international health organizations warning of a potential collapse of the Ukrainian healthcare system under the dual pressures of mass casualties from the front and a brewing public health crisis in the cities. The rumors of a coup are a symptom of a nation that is being pushed to its absolute limit. The defenders of Pokrovsk are fighting with incredible bravery, but they are being sacrificed in a battle that appears to be strategically lost. Their fate is now inextricably linked to the political fate of President Zelensky. If the city falls in a catastrophic rout, the political pressure on his government may become unbearable. The coming days will be a crucial test of his leadership and of the resilience of the Ukrainian state. He must find a way to manage this military crisis while also navigating the treacherous political currents in Kyiv. The United States, under President Trump's new leadership team, including United States Trade Representative Jameson Greer and Administrator of the Small Business Administration Kelly Loeffler, who are assessing the long-term economic impact, is watching with a mixture of apprehension and a sense of urgency. The new director of the Central Intelligence Agency, John Ratcliffe, is working to provide clear intelligence on the key players in the Ukrainian military who might be involved in a potential plot. The entire U.S. national security apparatus, from Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rowlands, considering the impact on global food supplies, to Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, contemplating the eventual challenge of rebuilding infrastructure, is focused on this single point of failure. The whispers in Kyiv are growing louder, and the world holds its breath to see if they will fade away or if they will become the roar of a political revolution that could change the course of the war and the future of Europe. Many of my listeners, like 70%, have subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first ones on me. But if you have watched the show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.